Hey everyone, it's Allison here with New Little Life. I got my brand new squish here and we are going to talk about today what to expect on breastfeeding day 5. So we've already talked about days 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can go check out those videos if you've missed them. But now we're talking about day 5 and hopefully by the 5th day you're starting to feel the groove. In the last video we talked about engorgement and kind of how to handle that. You're probably still feeling some of that on day 5. So go back and watch that video if you need tips on engorgement, how to deal with that, what's normal, what's not normal, things like that. Day 5. I hope you're feeling pretty good by this day. Your baby's probably eating about 10 to 12 times in 24 hours, and that's super, super normal. There's probably a point or maybe 2 during the day also where they're cluster feeding. And cluster feeding is when the baby is just hungry for several hours. And they eat very regularly during those hours. And then after that, they usually give you a little bit longer stretch where they don't eat. So if you can kind of help guide their cluster feeding into the evening, late afternoon, evening, and then maybe give you a little bit longer stretch that first stretch of the night, that can be really, really nice. My little guy's on a pretty good schedule like that. About 6 o'clock p.m., he starts the cluster feeding. So he's hungry and he's just eating every half an hour, every 45 minutes. My breasts do end up feeling pretty not empty because on day 5, they're still a little engorged, but definitely softer. I can tell that he's taking in a lot of milk. And then about 10 or 10:30, he falls asleep. And the past couple nights, he slept until about 2:30. So that's a solid 4 hours there, which we will take. So that's really common. He tends to like to cluster feed again in the morning. So pretty normal there. A varied feeding schedule is very common for babies. So try not to stick to a clock. I know it can be tempting to say, okay, they need to eat 10 times in 24 hours. So that's like roughly every 2 hours with hopefully a longer stretch in the night. Okay. And that's really logical thinking, but babies are very not logical. They do whatever the heck they want to do. And a more varied feeding schedule is more common for little ones. So expect that their feeding times look a little weird. Try counting how many times they ate in a 24-hour period. That can give you a better idea of they're eating often enough. Also look for the wet and dirty diapers. That will also give you a good indication that they're taking in enough milk. On day 5, they should be having at least 5 wet or dirty diapers. Likely more than that. But if they're having less than that, that's an issue and you need to let the pediatrician know. You are likely having some pretty noticeable letdowns now too. Now, some women never feel a letdown, which is normal. Some women really feel a letdown, which is also normal. So I always really feel mine. They're very evident. It really feels like a tingling, like when your leg or something is asleep and it's coming back to life. That like tingling, burning sensation is kind of, to me, what a letdown feels like. And they usually catch me and I have to be like, ooh. Now, that does get better and less noticeable as the time goes on. So if you're really feeling it strong, it won't always be that way. But that can be pretty common to really feel those. You might be getting them spontaneously too. So if it's been a while since your baby ate, you might just kind of feel a random letdown. So it's always a good idea at this point to have some kind of pad or something in place to catch any leaking milk. You can use disposable nursing pads or reusable nursing pads. I definitely prefer the reusable ones, and these are super easy just to throw in your laundry and wash like regular. It's like no extra hassle. First of all, they are way more comfortable. I really hate the like diaper boob feeling of the disposable ones. So not my favorite thing. So something with a water resistant outside. This one is like a PUL. I actually made these because they're really easy and fun to make, especially with scraps from like making pads and diapers and stuff. So. And then if you can find one that has like a wicking on the inside, that's also a great thing to do. And then they're layered, so this will catch a lot of the leaking milk. I've bought a couple from Amazon, and my favorite is the bamboo bees. Bamboo bees, yeah. They're a little expensive, but they work really, really well. I bought a cheaper pack, and I did not like them. I only used 2 or 3 sets. They didn't wash well. And they like bunched up and the insides were weird. I don't know. I just didn't like them. So I will post a couple that I do like down below in the description for you because I've tried out several and made them quite often, so nothing new. So I'll leave you some links down below. Now, pads are great for just like keeping in there for the random times you leak, or if you're out and about, especially, you need something like that. If you're wanting to save your milk, you have a couple of options. The first one is something like this. This is just like a soft shell milk catcher, and it has no suction. It just literally sits in there. You can catch a little bit of milk. Now this one does have ventilation holes in it, so it's not going to hold a lot, and if you move or bend over, it's definitely going to spill. So, but that's a great option for like no suction. You don't want any extra stimulation. You just want to catch a little bit of the leaking milk. You can use a soft shell like that. Something else that's really popular right now is the Haakaa breast pump, and I have a love-hate relationship with the Haakaa. It's super cool, and it's really cheap, and it can be really, really useful for several things. It can also cause some problems, especially if you use it too much. So this is not like a traditional pump that, is an electric pump that goes on and off and provides a lot of stimulation designed to empty the breast. However, it's still classified as a pump. So if you want to see a video on how to use this and how to put it on, I'll put a link up top for you because I've done one of those before. But the thing to keep in mind with the Haakaa is you don't want to overuse it. So I did use it once on day 5, but only once. And it was because I really needed some relief. And I think that's ideally what it's for in this section of the breastfeeding journey, okay? So you should not be using this for every feeding to collect milk. You're going to probably cause an oversupply. So I know a lot of moms are worried about low milk supply, but you also don't want to cause an oversupply because that can be just as tricky to deal with, especially in the first couple weeks when your milk supply has not regulated. So you're engorged on day 5, most likely. And if you put this Haakaa on every single time you feed, you're going to end up, your body's thinking, oh my gosh, I need to keep this up. Like this baby needs more milk. The milk's going away. I'm going to fill it back up. And then you're going to have some problems down the road. So I used it once on day 4 and once on day 5. And it was just to relieve some really, really uncomfortable pressure. I got about 1.5 ounces, I think, on day 5, which is quite a bit. So I could see where using that every feed could be a bad thing. Okay. So this is not the time to build your freezer stash. This is just something to relieve a little bit of the pressure. Okay. So a great cheap tool. I still think that most moms would benefit from something like this. And we'll talk about more when you can use it later on in the breastfeeding relationship and other times that it's helpful, because I think there is some really, really good things that you can do with this. But don't go crazy. Please, please, please. If you want to go the easiest route, you can literally just hold a cup under your breast while you're feeding on the other side. You'll probably be leaking some milk. You can catch in there. If you want to, you can feed that directly to your baby or put it in the fridge. You can freeze it, whatever you want to do. Throw it in their bath. Use it on your nipples if they're sore. If they've got some cradle cap or baby acne, you can use it there. You can rub it into their dry skin. My little guy, I always see dry feet on the babies. They're just getting used to the real world, but rub some breast milk in there, It's really great for a lot of things. So anyway, some ideas on leaking milk. I actually have a whole video on leaking milk now that I think about it. I'll post that up top for you. Your nipples should be starting to feel a little bit better at this point. If you're having a lot of pain and struggles latching, you need to contact a lactation consultant. You should not still be having a lot of pain and problems at this point. Now, you're still learning, so give yourself some grace. Things are not going to be perfect on day 5. But if you're having pain, cracks, concerns, you need to get some help. So contact a lactation consultant. See if your local hospital has one available. There's also private practice lactation consultants. You can try Googling that. That's something that I do, is go and see women in their homes and help them on a private basis. Insurance will sometimes cover that if you have an IBCLC that's doing that. So you can check and see if that's an option for you. But get some help if you're struggling at this point, okay? Because you should be kind of like starting to have a little bit of a good groove. And if you're not feeling that, if you've got questions, get them answered, because it is way easier to fix them early in the process than to let them drag out, and then they become big problems and they're a lot harder to deal with. So if you have questions and need help, reach out please to somebody. I will try and answer questions in the comments here, but I can't do consults via YouTube comments. So there's often so much more information that I need to ask and time. I don't want to give you bad advice not knowing the whole picture of what's going on with you. Everyone's situation is so different. The resources you have available are different. So I will do my best to point you in the right direction, but I really can't do many consults I don't have time, and I don't want to point you in the wrong direction without having all the information. So please be patient there, but I will try my best. Other moms are usually great for some advice too, so I'd love to interact with you guys in the comments. I often respond to most all of you, so I'll see you down there. And the last thing we'll talk about today is kind of just what to watch out for. So you kind of want to be on the lookout for clogged ducts, which are when a little bit of milk kind of clogs up one of the ducts and it feels like maybe a frozen pea, like a lump or something. The best thing to do is kind of massage that while your baby's eating. Again, if you can rotate the different positions that your baby is feeding in, so cross cradle and football hold and sideline and laid back nursing, kind of alternate, that will empty the breast in different ways and you can kind of avoid that. But if you start feeling hard spots, try and massage those out so they don't get infected. Your body should kind of do its own thing, but just keep a watchful eye. If it does get infected, then that's something that we call mastitis. So if you have mastitis, you'll notice kind of a red and tender spot on the breast. Usually it's just one side because it's a little duct that got clogged and then got an infection. So you're not going to have like double mastitis. I hope not. I've seen it, but don't let it go that far, please. So it's usually a specific spot. It's red. You will probably have a fever. You'll probably also feel really terrible, like you have the flu. Mastitis is a systemic infection, so it affects your whole body. You have flu-like symptoms, fever, like I said, and you need to definitely find some help. So a lactation consultant or your OB, you need to go in and be evaluated. That's something that you need help to treat. There's some other natural options you can try first if things are pretty mild, but I tend to send people to their healthcare provider because that's just not something that I really want to mess around with unless I'm seeing someone in person and can really evaluate them that way. So again, not the common road, but it does happen. So just keep a watchful eye out, and anything that you find weird, just check and make sure that it's okay with whoever your healthcare provider is. Day 5 is not a bad day though. Hopefully you're starting to feel like you're in a good groove, and day 6 and 7 should be easier and easier even. So the next video we're going to do is kind of days 7 to 10. You're going to be hitting a growth spurt somewhere right around there. And so once you find your groove and your routine, then things quickly change. And that is the life of a parent. So we'll talk about that in the next video. So I'll see you over there. And you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and support the channel on Patreon if you're able to. I can't wait to start putting out a bunch of videos on breast pumps, all the new breast pumps that I have. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to compare them all. We're going to dive into them, pumping tips, and all that fun stuff. So stick around, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.